Have you ever wondered why sometimes we can be alone and never feel lonely? There are times in my life when I've been up in the mountains and on a hike or something like that, or times I've been doing things by myself, and I felt perfectly fine. I didn't feel lonely. And there are other times in my life when I've been surrounded by friends, surrounded by family, and even times when I've been in a relationship and I still felt lonely. Well, today I want to help you answer that question and let you know where all of this comes from. Because there was a time when I hated being alone. I had gone through a breakup, and like many people, this person was my life. This was who I looked forward to seeing on the weekends. And when I lost the relationship, I became very lonely. And, I distracted myself with, work and hobbies and anything else because I didn't want to face the pain of being alone. So this is a topic that I know intimately well. And I want you to know that if you're searching for a way out of loneliness, for a way out of depression or your anxiety, I have taken that road. And now I'm living the life that I always dreamed of. I have a loving, supportive wife. I have a wonderful daughter. I have an amazing career. I have a great hobby. It's called kazamba dancing. You've probably never heard of it. And I'm happy. So let's dig deep. Let's start at the beginning. And where is the beginning? Well, most feelings of loneliness come from missing someone, which makes sense. You're suffering through a breakup, a divorce, there's the the death of someone close to us, the pain of not being able to see somebody, the prolonged absence, or, there are times when I was single and I was yearning to find a partner, a life partner. And all of this will bring about loneliness. And it's important to understand that there's a subtle difference between missing someone and grieving their loss, which is very normal, and feelings of loneliness. Generally, in cases where relationships come to an end, it's not that we're just grieving the loss of the person and how they made us feel about ourselves. We're also grieving the loss of a relationship and the loss of the companionship that relationship brought us. Sadness, grief, pain come from the loss of that person. Loneliness comes from the loss of or lack of the relationship and the companionship that relationship brought us. And that's an important distinction. Therefore, if we're lonely, it's vitally important that we fully understand and recognize this important distinction. I want you to ask yourself, are we missing the person, or are we really missing being in a relationship and the companionship that brought us? More often than not, the pain that we're actually feeling is from the attachment we got while we were in relationship. There was a time when I lost everything that meant anything to me, and all within a 3-month window. A significant relationship with a long-term girlfriend who I thought was the one. I was convinced was the one. Even though we had dysfunction and things weren't going always right, I still thought, because she told me I was the one, she told me she loved me, she told me we were going to be together forever, I bought into everything, despite everything else that didn't work. And I lost my career because back in 2008, 2009, boy, that's a long time ago, eh? My career, because the economy went south, my career went south. And my beloved pet, Casey, I'd had her for 18 years and she was the most amazing cat. You won't believe this. She was like a dog. She would sit at the window and look for me to come home from work. And when I got to the door, she would run to the door, look up at me, and she would be waiting for me. It was adorable. If she was in another room and I called her, she would come to me just like a dog. For a cat, she never scratched me. We would play fight and, I'd rough housing, right? never scratched me. She was an amazing cat, completely like my best friend, had her for 18 years. She died of cancer. And so all of this loss of relationship, loss of career, loss of pet, all happened within this 3-month period. And I was devastated. I mean, I just completely broke down. I could not take it. And I felt so lonely. And this aloneness turned to despair, which turned into depression, and it lasted 3 years. It was brutal. I was miserable. I was broken, and I was convinced I would never find true love again. I would never have a family. I would be poor for the rest of my life, and I would be lonely forever. Because who would ever want anyone as messed up as me, as poor as me, as old as me, as ugly as me? That's how I felt. I tried everything. I've shared this on other videos. I tried support groups, journaling, the internet. I spent hours and hours on YouTube watching videos. I bought books. I was on Amazon. I would look for the 5-star rating, read other people's comments, looking for the answer, looking for the cure to my loneliness, to my depression and everything else, and the grief and everything else that I was going through. But mostly it was the loneliness. I tried counseling and therapy, group support work, trying to find answers and trying to find a cure. I can't tell you, you'll never know how painful it was. Day-to-day life was a struggle. I had a hard time going to work. I had a hard time being present with anybody. I didn't trust anybody, and I didn't trust myself. Top it all off, I had insomnia. I'd go to bed. I'd just lie awake for hours, so I would just get up, go for walks, lots of walks. And I want to share with you what I did to heal my life so that you can see that there is a path out of the way of feeling lonely, and that our loneliness brings us, that it's a state of mind, and it's of our own making. And I know that's going to be hard to wrap your head around right now because you're feeling lonely and you're feeling grief, loss of relationship, and you're in pain. And you're saying, this is a state of mind of my own making? Are you nuts? Somebody just left me. I'm feeling devastated. I feel lonely. I lost this relationship. And yes, I get it all. I get it all. Trust me. And I want you to stay with me. The first step to healing is to realize that the loneliness we're feeling is unintentionally, and I need you to fully grasp this, unintentionally self-inflicted. That there have been times in your life, for most of us, when we have been quite happy when we were alone. Missing someone when you're going through a breakup or a divorce is completely normal, and it's to be expected, and it's completely beyond your control. I get that. I want to frame it as I get that. We are social creatures. We become attached, and when we lose someone that means a lot to us, it's normal to miss them, and it's normal to grieve their loss. I get it. I want you to know I'm on the same page. And so you're saying, but Kevin, my spouse or my girlfriend or boyfriend just left me. How can you say my loneliness is unintentionally self-inflicted when you're telling me it's normal to feel this way? You're all over the map and you're not making sense. So for a moment, I want you to listen to me with an open mind, because I know you're hurting right now, and this may be difficult for you to hear and difficult for you to process. Because of our deep despair of the loss of our relationship with a significant other in our lives, we stop living a fully engaged life. We stop because we're in so much pain. We're grieving, and it's to be expected. It's normal, and it's part of the process. But when we are grieving, a byproduct of the grieving is that we often isolate ourselves because we're in so much pain. And that's when the loneliness and depression starts to creep into our lives, the sadness, the despair. And who can blame us? Who can blame you? We're experiencing deep, painful, life-altering loss. It's normal to experience deep feelings of despair and pain during times of loss. And when we're at this level of pain, it's quite common for many of us to isolate, to be angry, to avoid real, genuine connection with others, to turn to a life of distraction or isolation. We do everything but remain fully engaged in our lives. It's important to understand that. We do everything but be fully engaged in our lives. We're in too much pain, and I get it. What I'm saying is that we can grieve the loss of our relationship, but it does not mean that we need to be alone. Loneliness is an unintentional byproduct of loss of relationship. In our despair, we withdraw and we isolate. We stop trusting others. In our isolation, we're in effect unintentionally abandoning ourselves. We become no longer fully engaged in our lives. And maybe, just maybe, if we're being 100% completely honest with ourselves, we had become codependent upon this relationship. Codependent upon the relationship. You may be codependent upon the person, or you may be a codependent person. That's a whole different conversation. I'm talking about codependent upon this relationship. And like I said, it's normal. It's very common when we're in a relationship to put most of our eggs in one basket. We look to that one person, generally, not everybody, but most of us, to meet most of our social needs. And because we've become so dependent on this one person, this relationship, to provide for most of our social needs, if we're experiencing problems in a relationship, now it becomes doubly difficult to leave. Even if in our gut we know that probably that's the best thing for us, we should go, we stay. Because we've become codependent on the relationship for our needs. It's the reason why we stay. And we also may have difficulty in asserting our boundaries because we're afraid to lose the relationship. One of the first exercises that I start off with my clients is to have them answer this one very important question. You may want to write this down. What is the emptiness inside that you are trying to fill? Where does that emptiness come from? And for every person, the answer is different. For most people, this missing thing, this emptiness, is generally, not for everybody, what we did not get in the past from our caregivers. And now, in the present, we start looking for an external solution to an internal problem. When we are relying on someone else or something else to fill that emptiness that's inside of us, make no mistake about it, we are self-abandoning. It's unintentional, but it is still self-abandoning. And if we're no longer living a life that's fully engaged, we will live a life of not our own making. We will live a life of not our own making. It will be based on people-pleasing. It will be based on trying to fit in. It will be based on trying to fill the void that's in your life. But what happens is this adds as layers. This only further reinforces your own feelings of powerlessness in your life. Whatever your parents or caregivers did not give you, whatever you feel is that emptiness that's deep inside of you, the answer is always the same. It's self-love and self-acceptance. And there's another component to loneliness that we've talked about in our last two videos, and that's our belief system. You may have a belief that you are not good enough, that you're too old, that you're not good looking enough, you're ugly, you don't make enough money, that you're too messy. I had the belief I was too messy, that I wasn't deserving. 9 times out of 10, when I work with a client who's grieving the loss of relationship, as we go deeper into their past, I will find that they also have a disempowering belief, pattern, or behavior that led to a lot of the problems that they're currently experiencing in their present relationships. That's underneath everything. Self-sabotage, unintentionally, comes from our judgments about ourselves. Our judgments about ourselves and about others come from our disempowering beliefs about ourselves, and they poison your mind. They poison your mind against you. They prevent us from living a life that's fully engaged and fully accepting, and they become the lens which we experience our world and how others experience us in relationship. And we go from relationship to relationship to relationship, bringing this along with us. And that's why we keep attracting the same experiences. I'll give you an example. I can give you lots of examples, trust me, but I don't want these videos to be too long. I love dancing. I used to plan on going to a dance event every Friday night. I was a new dancer. I just learned how to dance. I had friends from the lessons, and they were always saying, Kevin, you got to come out to the social dancing. But I was very self-conscious. And I was very self-conscious of not being good enough. So when Friday came, and it was 9 o'clock and it was time to go, or 8 o'clock time to go, I would be finding excuses not to go. I was too tired. My dancing wasn't good enough. I wouldn't meet anybody there that I would connect with. I wouldn't have fun. I would tell myself all these stories that I wouldn't fit in. And you know, when I did finally fight the urge to isolate, and I finally did go to the dance, I'd dance a few songs. I'd get frustrated because I didn't like the music. Other people liked the music. Other people were having fun. Other people were connecting, but not me. And I would want to leave because in that moment, I would see everybody else dancing, having fun, and I saw others as being much better dancers than me because I was being overly self-critical. I felt not good enough. I felt separate. I felt even more alone, and I wanted to go home and isolate even more. So underneath the loneliness and the isolation was my belief that I'm not good enough. As soon as we have the thought or the belief that I'm not enough, we're doing two things. We are judging ourselves and we are abandoning ourselves. And in doing so, we experience even more isolation, which leads to even more feelings of aloneness. As long as we abandon ourselves through self-judgment, we will never feel really lovable or worthy of anyone. No one can take away the pain of your own self-abandonment. So, another step in the cure for loneliness is connection. How can we experience connection when we're so busy building walls? Isolating ourselves, withdrawing, judging ourselves or others as not good enough, or judging others as less or more than us. If we only see the differences in others or see ourselves as less or more than others, how can we ever experience connection with others? We need to become our own best friend. Isn't it ironic how we can accept our friends and our families members' flaws, their warts, their weaknesses, their mistakes, but we can't seem to accept the warts within us? Judgment creates more disconnection. The way we judge ourselves and the way we judge others, we try to make ourselves feel better about ourselves by judging, telling ourselves that our pain is caused by others, by events and circumstances in our lives. In reality, our pain is self-inflicted. And I know you're saying, Kevin, you don't know my situation. My ex was a jerk. Well, when did you find out he was a jerk? When did you decide to stay? And why did you decide to stay? You know, when I go deep with my clients, I always find there was trouble. There was red flags. And this includes me. I chose to ignore them. And all of my clients, and I hate saying all because I know that that sounds like this is making a judgment, but I would say pretty well all my clients had a problem with this. They stayed too long with the wrong person. And they tried too hard with the wrong person. And that person that they were with was broken and unhealthy for them. So we need to ask ourselves, why am I longing for this brokenness in my life to fill this emptiness? It's like going to the wrong doctor. You're going to the wrong person to help heal your wounds. You're not going to get healing from this person. Trust me. It's not going to come from there. And that's why I say our pain is self-inflicted. It's not the event that hurts us so much, it's our reaction to it. Convincing ourselves that we're unworthy, that we're unlovable, that we're stupid, that we're powerless, too fat, too ugly, too old, a failure, a mess, whatever it is. We have been conditioned by society to believe that finding the right person to love us, or to complete us is the solution to our loneliness and our unhappiness. But I want you to know this. This is the ultimate form of self-abandonment, when we look to others to complete us. We look to others to do something for us which we should be doing for ourselves. The despair we're feeling, we think it's because of the loss of relationship. And yes, in part it is true. I recognize that. We've gone through that. It is really the grieving the loss of the dream. Our dream that we had finally found the one and we could stop looking. Our dream that we had found somebody that would unconditionally love us, that would be with us when we're old and gray. That's the dream. And we're grieving the loss of that dream. But I have something that I want you to know. There is no more perfect soulmate for you than you. This is the real journey. This is the real answer to the pain and to the suffering. There is no better soulmate, no better person to comfort you than you. For you to provide yourself that which you seek from others. There's no powerful validation than the validation that you can give yourself. When you make that transition, when you make that shift, it will be like you are a new person. Life will show up for you differently. I promise you this. Your life will show up for you differently when you start showing up for yourself. And if you don't know how to do that, that's where I can help, because I had to make this journey. And I tell you, without help, it's hard to make this journey, because we get in our own ways and we say, yeah, okay, Kevin, that kind of makes sense, but I don't know how to get there. And that's what I help. That's where I do, that's my gift. If you have ever wanted to have massive results in your personal growth as a person, it's through self-acceptance. When you change the way you see the world from the inside, it will change the way you show up for others on the outside. And when you change the way you show up, you will change your life. It's ironic when you think about it. We have this fundamental understanding that no one is perfect. We certainly accept our friends and our family members as less than perfect. My wife makes me crazy. Trust me, she makes me crazy, and I make her crazy. But you know what? I love her so much, and she makes me so happy. And she is kind, and she's generous, and she's forgiving, and she's compassionate, and she is the perfect person for me. And I would have never found her if I hadn't done this work. That is the challenge of self-acceptance and becoming truly our own perfect soulmate. Going inside and looking at the parts of ourselves that we find distasteful, that we don't want to see, that we don't like. And it's through self-acceptance that we become more grounded. And as we become more grounded and heal, we attract better people into our lives. We attract healthier people in our lives. And it's funny, we know this is something that we should do. I think at a core level, I knew that I was messy, and I knew I was making bad choices in relationship partners. And I always hoped this one would be different, but it never was. It just was a pattern that kept repeating itself over and over again. There's actually great healing in embracing the aspects of yourself that you don't like and learning how to love yourself fully. It changes your life. And when you have lost a relationship, you're going through a breakup, a divorce, or a separation, it's like an addiction. You are addicted. You have attachment to this relationship. And there's a hump to get over from our feelings of aloneness and grieving to love and self-acceptance. It's not easy. But I tell you, when you take this journey, the person that's waiting for you on the other side, it is what you've always wanted. So we need to face our wounded, broken selves. We need to grieve the loss of a relationship. We need to lean into the pain. And we need to become our own best friend again. Stop looking to the next relationship to save you. Stop looking to the external to save you. These are all Band-Aid solutions, which they're only temporary. They only last as long as the relationship. And it's not the answer. You might get lucky. Hey, listen, that's what I hoped for. I hoped that I would get lucky. But if you want to be the captain of your own ship, if you want to be the hero in your own life's journey, the healer of your own life, then you must face this issue of loneliness and this issue of looking to others to fill that emptiness that's inside of you. This issue of your own disempowering beliefs, patterns, and behaviors that are underneath everything, what's driving this. This issue of looking for the answers out there. Trying to please others, trying to live by other people's rules and judgments, feeling guilty, staying too long with the wrong person, living in our past or our future, past filled with regret or shame, or a future based on hope and prayers. Your life is right now. It's in the present. And whatever your experience is a reflection of how you see yourself and how others see you. Now, right now, is the time to take in your life to become your own best friend, to commit to doing this personal growth work. And as you show up for yourself, the loneliness will start to disappear. And you'll make this shift. You'll make this transformational inside-out shift into the most powerful version of yourself. And I'm telling you, you're going to love it. You're going to love the person that you find on the other side of this. When I see my clients at social events or when I follow up with them, because you don't lose touch with me, I'm always seeing how you're doing. Wow, it's awesome. It is awesome. And if you want to talk to one of my clients, you let me know, and I'll see if I can put you in touch with somebody. I want you to know that you can put all of this behind you. I want you to live a life that's fully engaged in self-acceptance, because you will fall in love with yourself. And if you need help on that journey, I invite you to read some of the testimonials on my website. I have, included some of them here through the links that you can get. I've also www.kevinboyle.ca. I've got some client testimonials there. There's a free clarity call that you can make with me, and we can dive. We've got 60 minutes. We can get a lot done in 60 minutes. We can dive deep into all this stuff for you. And I'll have a call for I'll have a link for the call somewhere in the description. But I want to leave you with this. Everything you've ever wanted, your dream life, is sitting on the other side of your disempowering beliefs, your patterns, and your behaviors, waiting for you.